My friends, the moment has arrived. Detroit is about to hit the field again, but the entire city is split between two emotions: the excitement of hearing that roar on Sunday, and the curiosity about what could happen at the trade deadline. It's that good kind of uncertainty, the kind that only exists when your team is strong, confident, and fully in control of its own destiny. Today, the conversation gets real. We're talking about what's truly at stake, not just on the field, but behind the scenes too. Because when things seem calm in Allen Park, that's usually when the surprises start brewing. So you already know, smash that like button to support the channel, because this video is packed with real insight and behind the scenes talk. And I want to hear from you, Lions fans. What do you think of Dan Campbell's performance so far? Is he handling things the right way? Take a deep breath, because the motor's roaring louder than ever. If you're a Lions fan right now, there's one question running through your mind. Are you more excited about Detroit getting back on the field this Sunday, or about what could happen at the trade deadline? That's been the conversation all week, and honestly, it's a good problem to have. Because when your team is healthy, confident, and sitting in a position of power, you start to wonder, will Brad Holmes pull another surprise move, or is this roster already complete enough to make a deep run as it is? Dan Campbell spoke about that exact topic this week, and as always, he was transparent, honest, and very Dan Campbell about it. When asked if the Lions expect to be active at the deadline, his answer was simple: I don't. But that doesn't mean we won't. And that's what makes this team different now. There's no desperation. No need to scramble. The head coach and general manager know exactly what they have, and they trust it. Still, Campbell's words left just enough room for intrigue, because both he and Holmes are always looking for ways to get better if the right opportunity comes along. But let's be real, making a move at the trade deadline in the NFL isn't as simple as fans think. Campbell broke it down perfectly. It takes rookies about half a season to fully adjust to the league, even after training camp, preseason, and months of preparation. For veterans who join a new team mid-season, the transition might be faster, but it still takes weeks, even months, to get fully plugged into a system. Learning the terminology, adapting to the culture, earning trust, that doesn't happen overnight. And by the time a new player truly settles in, the regular season might already be winding down. That's why many trade deadline moves don't pan out the way fans hope. Communication, chemistry, and continuity matter. And Campbell knows this team finally has those things working in its favor. He said it himself. He loves where the roster is at, believes it's healthy, deep, and in a strong position. He's focused on the guys already in the building, not dreaming about outside additions. But Brad Holmes? He's never fully off the clock. The man is always working, always exploring, always calling. Even when it seems quiet, he's turning over every stone, making sure that if the right fit appears, he's ready to act. Holmes said something earlier this year about the trade for Zadarius Smith that perfectly sums up how hard it actually is to make a good deal at this point in the season. He called it the most difficult player acquisition journey of his career, because once you start making those calls, you quickly realize how few players are truly available. Teams guard their depth like treasure. No one wants to give up rotational guys in October when 2 injuries can flip a season. So when Holmes landed Smith, it wasn't luck, it was persistence and precision. That's the same mindset he'll carry into this deadline. Now, when you look at the current roster, one position keeps coming up as the only realistic place where a move might make sense: offensive tackle. The secondary, which many thought could be a weak spot earlier in the year, has quietly become one of the most stable parts of the roster. The Legion of Whom, as some fans have started to call them, proved their depth against Tampa Bay. Even with injuries, guys like Afita Melifonwu, Jerry Jacobs, and Kendall Vilder have held their ground. And now with Avonte Maddox and Terrion Arnold expected back, that group looks even stronger. The defensive line is deep as well. Despite injuries to players like Marcus Davenport and Josh Paschal, the Lions have held up. They've shifted interior linemen outside when needed, mixed in linebackers like Derek Barnes on the edge, and still managed to generate consistent pressure. That kind of flexibility shows the roster is built to absorb hits. But offensive tackle, that's where the concern lingers. Taylor Decker's shoulder injury changed how this offense operates. Even when he's playing, the staff knows they can't lean on him to be 100% every snap. Behind him, the situation gets thin fast. Jamarco Jones and Giovanni Manu are both out, which pushed Dan Skipper, who didn't even make the initial 53-man roster, back into action. Skipper's been reliable, but if he goes down again, the Lions are suddenly on their 5th option at one of the most important positions in football. That's why the idea of trading for a backup tackle, not a star, just a steady, capable backup, makes so much sense. One name that's floated around is Saints tackle Trevor Penning. He's in the final year of his rookie deal after New Orleans declined his 5th-year option. He's had an up-and-down start to his career, promising flashes early, but inconsistency and injuries have slowed him down. He's even been moved inside to guard this season. On paper, it's an intriguing possibility, but when you really look at it, the Lions might already have their own version of Trevor Penning and Dan Skipper. Their grades, their strengths, their weaknesses, they're strikingly similar. So if Detroit is going to make a move, it's going to be for someone who truly upgrades the room, not just another body. That's the dilemma Holmes faces. The team has depth almost everywhere, but tackle is where the margin for error is razor thin. Lose one more player, and you're asking someone who wasn't even supposed to make the roster to protect Jared Goff's blind side in December. That's not a risk you take lightly. Holmes knows it, Campbell knows it, the fans know it. If the Lions stand pat, it'll be because they believe in the foundation they've built, not because of hesitation or lack of opportunity. This isn't the Detroit front office of the past, where every roster hole felt like a crisis that needed patching overnight. Brad Holmes has built this team with intention, layering depth at nearly every position, and Dan Campbell has cultivated a culture where players step up when their number is called. That's the biggest difference now. Detroit doesn't panic. They prepare. Still, if you've been following this team closely, you know how critical offensive line stability has been to their identity. Everything in Ben Johnson's offense flows through that unit, the timing, the balance, the rhythm. When the line is intact, Goff looks comfortable, the run game is multidimensional, and the play-action game becomes lethal. But the moment one tackle goes down, everything tightens. The quick throws get quicker, the run calls get safer, and you start to see that ripple effect in play design. It's why Decker's health has been such a delicate storyline this year. His presence doesn't just impact one position, it affects the offense's entire ceiling. If Holmes decides to act before the deadline, it'll likely be for someone who can stabilize that tackle rotation without disrupting the chemistry already in place. The type of player who might not even dress on game days unless something happens, but whose presence could save the season if the worst-case scenario unfolds. Think of it as insurance, not excitement. Holmes isn't chasing headlines anymore, he's safeguarding long-term success. That's how championship-caliber front offices think. And that's really where the conversation shifts from should we make a move to do we even need to? Because right now, this team has what most others don't, real, tangible depth. At corner, they're getting reinforcements back. At defensive end, they've proven they can stay disruptive even without key names. The linebackers are communicating better than ever, and the secondary's cohesion has been one of the biggest pleasant surprises of the year. The pass rush remains consistent. The locker room energy is balanced, not frantic. Every level of this roster feels aligned, and when that's true, adding a new piece isn't just about talent. It's about fit. There's also something to be said about continuity, the unspoken rhythm between teammates that can't be manufactured overnight. Look at this defense. Early in the season, when injuries hit and rotations got shuffled, there were communication breakdowns. But now, you can see the trust. You can hear it in the way Campbell talks about his group, confident, proud, but grounded. That's not something you disrupt lightly by introducing a new personality midstream, especially when the locker room's chemistry is one of your biggest advantages. And let's not forget how the Lions have been managing adversity. When injuries hit early, especially on the line, they didn't fold. They adapted. That adaptability has become one of Detroit's defining traits under Campbell. He's not just building a team, he's building a mindset, one that can handle turbulence without losing identity. That's why his comment about being focused on the here and now carries so much weight. He's not dismissing the future, he's reinforcing belief in the present. Fans love the thrill of a trade, the instant buzz, the speculation, the headlines. But in Detroit, this rebuild has evolved past that stage. The excitement isn't in what might come next, it's in watching what's already here grow stronger. When Campbell says he loves this roster, you believe him, because it's been built his way. Tough, disciplined, unselfish, and hungry. That's a hard-earned confidence, and it's why the front office can afford to be selective. Still, the situation at tackle lingers like a storm cloud just far enough on the horizon to keep everyone watching. Taylor Decker's shoulder is something you monitor every week. Skipper's knee? A concern that could resurface anytime. Beyond them, the names get thinner, the experience drops off, and that's where the risk lies. Because one bad twist, one awkward fall, and suddenly your fifth tackle, a guy who was never supposed to see real snaps, is lining up against a playoff-caliber pass rush. That's the kind of moment that can derail momentum in an instant. So Holmes has a choice: stay disciplined and trust the process, or strike early and quietly to reinforce the most vulnerable link in an otherwise complete roster. If he makes a move, it'll be calculated. A depth signing, not a splash. But But if he holds firm, it'll be because he believes, genuinely, that this roster, as it stands, is good enough to withstand what's ahead. And maybe that's the most encouraging part of all, because for the first time in years, the Detroit Lions aren't a team hoping for something to fix them. They're a team fine-tuning what already works. The culture, the leadership, the player development, it's all connected. Holmes and Campbell aren't building for a single season, they're building a standard, and that standard is starting to look like one of the most stable in the league. So now it's your turn. If you were in Brad Holmes' shoes, what would you do? Make a move for another tackle before the deadline, or ride into November with the group that's already earned your trust? Because here's the truth, this moment says more about who the Lions have become than any trade ever could. A few years ago, the idea of Detroit sitting quietly at the deadline would have felt like surrender. Now, it feels like confidence. This team no longer needs outside help to believe it can win. It's not searching for missing pieces, it's protecting what it's built. Every injury test, every tough road game, every adjustment has strengthened the foundation instead of cracking it. And that's what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have worked for, a roster that doesn't flinch, a locker room that trusts the guys beside them. Fans can feel it too. You can sense it in the energy around the city, in the way players talk post-game, in how calm the organization sounds when these questions come up. That noise, the speculation, the what-ifs, the trade rumors, it doesn't shake this team anymore. They've reached the point where the outside world can speculate all at once, but inside Allen Park, there's a clear direction and belief. They're built for the long game, not the headlines. So maybe the deadline passes quietly, maybe no move comes at all. And if that's the case, it won't be a disappointment, it'll be a statement. A statement that Detroit finally trusts its own reflection, that the foundation is strong enough to stand on its own. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a front office can do is nothing at all. It's the kind of silence that speaks louder than any blockbuster trade ever could. And that brings it back to us, the fans. After watching this franchise climb, fall, rebuild, and finally rise again, what do you want to see now? Do you trust Brad Holmes to hold the line and bet on the depth he's built? Or do you think one more smart addition could be the difference when the playoffs come around?